and welcome to the Wealthy LaLa Show with myself, Laurie Laursen. How are you today? I know it's not like you can answer, right? Everybody just yells out at once. People are randomly listening to this audio show on a bus or something, and they just start talking to themselves. Well, you could. That would be entertaining. Anyways, you know where I kind of wanted to start today, because it's amazing what a person can cover when we just chat even here for, 15, 16, 17 minutes kind of thing. It's amazing how many places a person can go. But what I wanted to talk about, because where we've been living lately, and this depends on where you are in the part of the whatever part of the world you're in, um, that we have weather. I know you guys are probably thinking, we have weather here too. Well, and I'm being funny about it, and it is incredible how if you watch yourself and or other people get worked up about the weather. Now, I want us to, this isn't a place to sit there and judge ourselves or judge other people, because we're aware of the weather. The weather can impact in whatever we're going to do that day, or depending on where and how you work, it can make a big difference. I know my one son is very impacted by the weather. If it's raining a lot, then he doesn't work. That's the same thing with even us that are farmers. It can really impact your ways of income. And what and I thought of this even before, way before I ever started, well, maybe not, but when I started doing all different kinds of classes, and now I look back and it was just sort of my a very natural, innate, super curiosity. But it always kind of puzzled me how everybody would just, so many people, it's like a default, right? You talk about the weather. And if you look at it, we look at the weather. Now, this is the thing, people. You think, as I talk a little bit more about this today, you might actually think to yourself, don't you think you're just being a little picky about things, Laurie? And I'm like, I would have thought so before. And the way we think about life, about things, about ourselves is what actually energetically creates our future. So then I would say, yeah, how you think about the weather is impacting your future. I've seen the gamut run, most of the time on Facebook, social media, I see people complain about the weather. And everybody's very happy to support each other with the complaining about the weather. Did you see that and oh, this just is so funny for me. So Kyle Cease, he's a fellow who used to be a comedian. Well, he's still a comedian because he's still funny. He just doesn't work as a professional comedian anymore. But he's turned into a motivational kind of inspirational guy. He does meditations and classes and stuff like that, and really is surrendered to life and the world in a different way than going for the outward, the success based on everyone else acknowledging and validating. Well, I heard him say one time, to someone, it's like, oh, did you see that it's weather outside today? And I thought, oh my God, that's funny. So did you know that there's weather outside today? Did you know that there was weather last night too while you were sleeping? And there was weather yesterday too. Did you see that? Did you hear it? Did you notice it? Well, when we don't actually stop and notice this kind of thing, you just be like, oh, people are talking about, oh, it's raining out there and it shouldn't be raining and it's summertime, and so we shouldn't have this much rain and we shouldn't have rain and we should only have a certain amount of rain, and the rain is too long and it's too heavy and it's too much and it's laying down the crops and it's filling up our ditches and it's flooding our gardens, and look at my flower bed, and people are getting it in their basements and all that kind of stuff. And what I'm noticing is that we allow our happiness to be dependent on the weather. Now, look at this. Can you control the weather? Like, can you, like a blind on your window, can you like open up the blind and can you lower the blind? Can you, like, can you do that? No. So doesn't it seem kind of silly? Like if you think about it and you slow it down that much, can you find where it might be a bit silly to allow that to be something to so control your happiness? Now, I mean, there's a whole other gamut to this thing. You got to be willing to receive the happiness. You got to be willing to receive the ease in your life. You got to be willing to just be like, okay, well, maybe this year, like our garden is terrible. Um, Actually, except for the things like the pumpkins and the squashes, um, those things are growing nicely. But our Swiss chard, our beets, our dill, like everything is like a month behind, if not more. And I wonder, maybe this year is a year we won't have a garden. And maybe this is the year that people are asking for a break, and so you get a break by not having to do the garden. This year you get to go to Costco and buy a bulk bag of carrots or something like that. Like if you don't make all of this kind of stuff wrong, what kind of an adventure could life be? Like what if life is surprising and delighting you? Maybe for some people, you're like me, I'm not a real fan of gardening. Doesn't bother me one bit that the garden doesn't turn out. But if you're a person who just, loves picking through the weeds and the dirt and the stuff, I don't know how you do it, but just kidding. Um, but seriously, for people who really find that so incredibly therapeutic, what is this asking of you? Like, is it possible that you could find another way this year that could create that same level of space and ease for you in your life? We get so dependent on things. We get dependent on our kids to create our happiness, our partner to create our happiness, for people around us, the coworkers should be a certain way and our food should always be the same, and you go to a restaurant and it should never be any different. Like we see that this stuff shows up, and we just right away judge that it's wrong if it's not exactly how we think it should be. And there's a lot of things you can't control in life, and other people, weather, you can try and control your kids, um, and to a certain extent that might work, or your partner, or your friends, or your other family members. But when it comes right down to it, like how well can we really control people? And I know myself, I tried really hard, and I know that there's still ways I do this where I try and control my environment so that I keep myself comfortable, so that I have more ease in my life. And I like that, right? I'm not a person, what we were talking about yesterday, I was talking with my daughter, and there's some people that we know right now that have gone traveling, and they're doing the camping in tents and traveling the countryside. And my daughter had said to me, that's actually not something I really like to do. Like, I love to go out and I love to see the countryside. Most of the things I love to see are outside of the rural or the urban cities. Except I like to come back to a nice bed and a comfy pillow and a shower and stuff like that. So, that, like, it's okay for us to know things about ourselves. And sometimes you just may have to sleep in a tent, uh, just because, like, who knows the circumstances. And what if you could make that okay too? Like, what if our entire summer rains and you end up at the end of summer, which for us is relatively short here in Alberta? You get to the end of summer and you don't actually see how you spent the whole summer complaining about the rain, and then talking about how much rain you had, and then saying, well, I sure hope we don't get any more rain today, and allowing it to even impact your future. Like, do you see that? And this might even be easier, like if there's an area in your life where you can find it. Like with the weather, it really stands out for me because I really get that that's something we can't control. And, people spend so much time talking about it. And I don't mean that it's, like, sure, yesterday we went for a little crop tour and we saw water standing in fields that we've never, and water standing, basically big puddles of water standing in fields, if you guys don't know what that means. And um, we saw water standing in fields that we've not seen before. So it was intriguing. It was interesting. But there's definitely an energy about it that it's like, oh my God, look at the water standing in there again. Holy mackerel, they're not going to be able to get around that spot. Like there's that way of doing it. And another way of like, holy crap, isn't this fascinating? Like look at the water. Look how it's standing. Look at there's never been water there before. In the 21 years we've lived here, we've never seen water sitting there. And it being an intriguing thing, but not having an energy that then continues into our future, not having an energy of frustration over something that we can't control, like really, truly not allowing our environment to impact our happiness. Like it can impact us, and it's how long do we stay there? And when I think of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and the three things he talks about is getting beyond your body, time, and your environment to be able to create a completely different future. And people, this is a muscle I am working on right now, and I ain't saying that it's easy. We're so used to, like me having been a person who's had a lot of intensity, discomfort, inflammation, whatever limitation in my body. You should see what it's like to walk and then to get beyond that. Okay, like and this is of course where he brings in the whole concept of meditation, because when you get into meditation and you get beyond your body, you're in that sort of, how just before you fall asleep or just before you wake up in the morning, they call this a theta state, where you're half awake, like your body's still asleep but your mind's starting to be awake. Well, that's what you're looking for in meditation, in Dr. Joe's meditations. And then it begins to be an invitation that when you are in that space, that you're in the energy of the universe, of the source, of the divine. You then let the source divine, the universe, know what you want. So you then imagine, visualize with elevated emotions, how you want to feel at the end of the summer, how you want to feel in your body, and especially for me with my body. And, and for us, I could use that same thing. How do I want to feel at the end of the crop year? I want to feel satisfied. I want to feel like it was abundant, that everything is always working out for me. And, and the energies of it, because you can have a rainy summer, the entire summer be rainy, and you can still have a joyful summer if you're willing to go beyond the conditions. And, and again, going back to myself, even with my body, I've discovered now that I can either enjoy my life and have intensity in my body, or I can have it be freaking suck and have a painful intense body. So like when I first heard this, like with listening to Abraham Hicks YouTube videos and audios and stuff, and then, and then of course it was with Dr. Joe Dispenza with his explanations that helped me understand it in a way that I required to know. I get it on a different level that you have to get beyond the things in your life that you actually hate, fight against, suffer through, don't like, wish were different. You have to get beyond those and into the energies you'd like to create in order to um, be able to create a different future. And like, the curse word that most people use that starts with F and ends with K. If you knew how many times I said that as I was learning to build this muscle of getting beyond, getting beyond this. So, getting beyond the body, getting beyond time. I don't have enough time left. I'm going to be 54 next month, and I've been sick for this long. How's it going to get in? We don't get better. We just get worse as we age. Like all those kind of things. It's like getting beyond those things and being, am I willing to live in a different possibility? Like, what if our negativity about the weather and complaining about the weather is what expands even further the weather getting worse? Maybe the universe is sitting there going, you guys are complaining about the weather. It doesn't have a point of view. And it's like you want something to, you're complaining. You're in the energy of complaining. Like the universe, God, source, whatever, is not punishing us. It's just reflecting back to us, however it shows up with our body, with our work, with the weather, what we've actually got going on internally. And if we shift that, it's amazing what we can actually shift in our lives. And yeah, oh my gosh, there's just like so much more I could say about this. I just may talk about it on tomorrow's show. We'll see. Anyways, you guys, we're at the end of the show. Thanks so much for listening. Have an amazing day and enjoy your weather, however it shows up for you.